Thank you for joining us and welcome to another Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America's Access webinar. So you want to go viral, digital marketing for success. Information shared today by our expert panelists will provide craft, startup, and small wine and spirits brands, as well as all of you also in the audience, with tools and tips to succeed in the digital marketplace. You will learn how to consider your digital strategy so that you can turn all media engagements into shelf space and an ever-growing consumer base. This is the latest in a series of WSWA Access virtual programs designed to help emerging brands and their partners navigate the often confusing and crowded US marketplace. Feedback on these webinars has been great, and several craft brands have told us that they've applied what they've learned from these sessions to their pitches for the 2021 Brand Battle Tournament. And yes, that was a shameless plug for the Brand Battle Tournament. I've been a pre-competition judge and an attendee at Brand Battle this year, and I will say the pitches have been impressive. A big congratulations goes out to the brands who have competed. The competition has definitely been stiff, and it's been really hard to choose who to vote for each week. So at this time, I'd like to recognize the category winners from the Brand Battle Tournament who will compete in the championship round on September 14th. We've dropped a registration link into the chat for those of you interested in signing up today to watch the crowning of the 2021 Brand Battle champion. For more information on how you can apply to compete next year, please visit WSWA.org/brandbattle. And now we'll get on with our regularly scheduled programming. We have a great panel of experts here with us today to discuss what digital marketing looks like in 2021. Going viral may be the goal of many consumer brands, but in the wine and spirits industry, this achievement is hard to attain while maintaining a respectable image for the brand and maintaining the integrity of the brand. So today we explore how to market digitally for maximum impact over the long term without breaking the law. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's panel. Kate Latz, Chief Marketing Officer for Heaven Hill Brands. Joining her today is Lily Pantaleone, E-Retail Manager for Moet Hennessy. And lastly, Ken Rosenberg, Senior Vice President at R&DC and a fellow Access Wholesale Advisor. Thank you all so much for being here. It's great to be with you, although of course we all still wish we could be together in person, hopefully soon. I would like to start off by asking each of our panelists to tell us about the role they play within their respective organizations, as well as about some of the brands that they represent. And for now, I will start with Kate.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Sarah. This is so much fun. Thank you all for asking me to participate here today, something I spend a lot of time thinking about in the digital world we live in, obviously being digital marketing. I'm Chief Marketing Officer here at Heaven Hill and also part of the third generation of our company's 85-year legacy and history. And in my day-to-day, what makes my job so fun is that we have such a vast portfolio that I might be talking digital trends on how we're going to think about our Elijah Craig's Old Fashioned Week. And last year, the things we had to do to pivot to make it an entire digital week versus an in-person week, in real life week. To thinking about how to amplify what's going on in the world of Deep Eddy being sort of coined the TikTok vodka, when that's a space that you'll hear more about, we don't really engage in, to then thinking about, how are we going to penetrate and manage the latest hip hopper, talking about hypnotic liqueur and everything that falls in between in our portfolio. So I'm really excited to be here today, and it's been fun meeting Lily, and of course being with Ken and yourself. So thank you again.
Thank you, Kate. It's great to see you as well. Lily, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Moet?
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you, at least virtually. Hopefully, we can all be together soon in person. I hope everyone's doing well and taking care of their family and loved ones. So it's an honor to be participating in this panel. We're going to speak a lot of digital innovation, the latest trends in the industry. I work for Moa Hennessy USA as an e-retail manager. My experience is very focused on e-commerce, innovation, and digital marketing strategies. And we have a portfolio of 25 maisons, which are part of the conglomerate of LVMH. We specialize in crafting experiences. We are in the luxury business. We want to make sure the message that we convey to our consumer, it's authentic all the time. And how we translate that into digital experiences, you're going to hear a couple examples from social media to activation on third-party providers, and very happy to share with all of you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily. It's good to see you. Our whole relationship has been digital, so it's great to work with you this way. Ken?
Hello, everyone, and hopefully everybody's doing well, wishing that we work together. I am the Senior VP of Wine for all of RNDC. I'm a third generation family member, and I work very closely alongside with our digital marketing team and our e-commerce team on our initiatives with our suppliers and our customers. So happy to discuss this with every one of you today.
Thank you, everyone. You obviously each play critical roles in developing and growing some very significant brands. And so I've no doubt, mastered what digital marketing looks like today. So let's dig a little deeper and discuss some of the best digital marketing strategies you found to connect with of-age consumers in the places where they now go to explore, purchase, and consume wine and spirits. As you know, the complexity of digital marketing in our industry goes beyond the regulatory environment that dictates how you can market, but involves spreading your message to different segments of consumers. We have to reach our customers and their customers. As digital marketers for some big brands, you've had to connect with your partners both on and off premise while keeping the ultimate end target in your line of sight, the consumer. Considering how you address these moving targets and varying needs, what are the most efficient and effective digital marketing tactics that you and your team use to, say, communicate with different customers, identify the correct channel to reach each subset of customer, and ultimately maximize your returns on platforms like social media? Lily, Moet does it best, right? One of the biggest. Can we start with you?
Yes, of course. Happy to share some insights. So I think where we need to start is like, what is digital marketing, right? What is the digital strategy? So the overarching is very complex, and especially in our industry, like Sarah mentioned, right? The three-tier system makes it a little bit more difficult to make sure the message that you're trying to communicate with your consumers is consistent throughout the way. So one of the things we've seen is from the digital strategy overall, making sure what we're investing in social media, acquisition marketing, meaning paid search, display advertising, and prospecting as well to increase awareness and loyalty. And then, of course, your CRM database, how we are messaging with our consumers that are most loyal, and how we are transmitting the latest campaigns, the new products in the marketplace, and all that. I think one of the things has worked very well is making sure that we understand what the consumer wants. We're constantly utilizing our business intelligence team and learning more for other companies and other industry professionals on what has worked best in the past and how those trends are shifting throughout the way. One of the things we saw last year when COVID started was like the acceleration of e-commerce overall in our industry. And how can we tackle that really quickly? Social media helped us a lot in that aspect, making sure that the way we were building the campaigns were quick and straight to the consumer, always segmenting and targeting the right consumer for the right brand at the right place, right? So I think that's one of the most important things in terms of digital, that it allows us to shift really quickly. In contrast with like traditional marketing, right? It has to go to print, we have to talk to the newspaper. There's a lot of nuances that digital has and the traditional market doesn't. And of course, the metrics that we get from those digital activations, it's key. So I think, like I mentioned before, making sure we're always listening to the consumer and that the message is consistent throughout the way and feels authentic. Omni-channel for us has been really, really great.
Thank you. And I guess, you know what, we'll turn to Kate now as a contrast for another major supplier.
Sure. So I don't know that it's so much of a contrast, but just a slightly different
Or
or
comparison.
in additional comments in terms of, Lily laid out so many different tools that the digital marketing world presents to us. And as Lily said, it always starts with the consumer. So for us, in addition to there being tried and true ways to maximize your digital marketing dollars, it comes down to so often what your brand is about, who your target is, like who are you going after, and where they are, because you want your digital marketing, the power of digital marketing versus like a print ad. You can have the power to use your marketing to get your message to the consumer at even a more relevant time than we used to in the world of a print ad or something like that. So across our portfolio, different brands dictate completely different digital marketing strategies, whether it's a brand like DBetty, where the consumer is very engaged and reposting things and user-generated content. And so then we as a brand want to not give up all control of your message. So how do we think about that? Versus a brand like Evan Williams, which is a brand that has a really integrated marketing plan. Not everything we do is digital. So how do we make the digital be supplemental to the things we're doing, whether it be in Major League Baseball or at retail? So every brand has a different objective, also not just the consumer, but also its life cycle, what you're trying to do with the brand. So it's such a complicated thing because, as you said, Sarah, the world we live in, all marketing so much of advertising communication is in that digital space. And every month there's a new tool to be exploring and assessing and trial and error. So there's so many options just depending on what your objectives are.
And Ken, different perspective coming from the middle tier.
So Kate and Lily, thank you. And you're so right. Messaging is key to the end user, to the consumer. And we need to listen to the consumer and try to follow the consumer on what they want to learn about the products and how we message that to the consumer. One of the key things is on the messaging is on all types of platforms that we have the same consistent messaging. And we work very closely with our suppliers and our internal teams so that we have consistent messaging on the brands, because each brand stands alone and is different and has different marketing campaigns against that. We try to tie it back to localization, personalization with the consumer. The consumer's hungry for content. They want to learn about these products. So let's continue to move forward on messaging the same message to the consumer.
Thank you. It's a lot of information to put together, but it's all really relevant. Ken, how Gen Z and those coming up are trendsetters and great amplifiers of a message. How do you market with this group in mind to stay cutting edge while balancing the issue of legal drinking age?
So, one of the key things that we have to do because of the legal drinking age is to make sure that whatever we message through e-commerce is age verified. So you have to verify the age. And that's something that we do in all aspects of it. We learn from these trend centers. We look to stay up to date with these trend centers, crazes, and other social media spaces that keep us relative and attractive to them. So it's always staying on the forefront of it.
Lily, you represent a slew of aspirational brands that are global. How do you reconcile that?
I think it's like Ken mentioned, right? The age verification is key. We want to make sure any marketing strategies are targeted at 21 and plus users, right? Any marketing strategy that we activate online has to have that basically age gate the forefront. But I think the other interesting part is like, how do we start educating these consumer and making sure that the brand that they're, if they are consuming our brands, how to become loyal to our history and our brands and the legacy that we have. We have 25 maisons, but they're all very different. Dom Perignon being like a very important brand in our portfolio. How do we do digital marketing around Dom Perignon is very different about how we do digital marketing with such a brand like Hennessy, depending on the marketplace. And also we have smaller brands that are emerging brands in our portfolio, such as Ardbeg, Glenmorangie. We also have Belvedere vodka. So you have different type of things and elements in those brand voices that we can definitely utilize to capture the attention of that generation, but also grow with them along the way, right? I think that's the ultimate goal, not become a one-off brand, but also a brand that they trust and they want to share with their families, loved one, and also like recommend along the way.
Kate, you've already mentioned Deep Betty is the TikTok vodka, which I had never heard before. How do you face this conundrum?
Right. Well, so yes, thanks for bringing up that example. Indeed. So last year we really saw this phenomena happening. I know we're going to talk more about how things go viral in a little bit, but when we saw, what was going on in the TikTok space and knowing, and as Ken and Lily said, responsibility in terms of everything we do at Heaven Hill across the industry is so important. And that's from authenticity of brands, what we're putting in the bottle, all the way through to how and where we are marketing and communicating about our products. And, we're all held to a really high standard, and we're in this industry together and want to make sure that we as an industry are working in partnership to make sure we are doing that in the right way. And one of the current topics has been not even emerging, it's emerged, having emerged platform called TikTok. And unlike Facebook and Instagram and other places in the digital social space where we have all come to participate, TikTok cannot, from a media buying perspective, verify what its audience is. So one of the DISCUS standards is that you cannot advertise in a place that is not certain to be more than 75% older than 21. TikTok cannot guarantee that. So across the industry, we are hopefully all holding ourselves to that standard and not engaging in that, because that would not be responsible. Nonetheless, we can't control what consumers are doing. So last year we saw consumers making this perpetual thing that Deep Eddy was now being called the TikTok vodka. So how could we as a brand capitalize on that in a responsible way? What we did was we were able to actually cross-match who some of these influencers were and find them on Instagram, age verify them to make sure they were indeed of legal drinking age, and then interact with them in that way. So recreate that experience in a different platform. So it takes a little creativity, but at the end of the day, it's so important for all of us in this industry and the long-term health and vibrance of where we all want to take this our brands and our companies.
Thank you. And speaking of new platforms, local licensed delivery has become a preferred, convenient, and compliant method for consumers to get product through a marketing partner, such as Drizzly and Minibar. These purchases often start and end digitally and will become more impactful as e-commerce becomes more ubiquitous. Can you share some effective e-commerce strategies that work across marketing partners? And how do you manage these strategies with what sales and marketing may be doing internally to reach your more traditional brick and mortar customers? Kate, since you brought up the platforms, we'll start back with you again.
Sure. So the e-commerce is in fact an emerging place. And Sarah, I really like how you're focusing on the immediate growth in the local delivery space, because back to responsibility, that is clearly what is in the most legal way as we operate in the industry today versus shipping product over state lines in most situations. So even from a local delivery perspective, we have a lot as an industry to do to ensure that age verification is happening at the point of the door opening and the person receiving their order. So there is a lot yet to be written in that space. So nonetheless, how can we capitalize on consumers' interest in participating in buying their distilled spirits and alcoholic beverages in that way? So we have spent, like much of the rest of the industry, the past 18 months trying to explore that. And whether it be, adding buy now buttons to your social posts and trying to encourage people to send them to Drizzly or other retailers in their local place, we're doing all of those things. We are seeing that, and this has been my opinion all along, two main things. In order for, given, as you said, Sarah, the focus is on delivery from a local retailer, the second thing you have to do, and then I'll come to the first thing. The second thing is make sure you have good distribution in those stores. Because if you're sending people to stores that don't carry your brands, that is a problem and not going to deliver a very good return on that investment, driving someone to that store. And then the first thing, going in backwards order, is continuing to build strong brands. That's really, and no matter how you're doing that, but the strongest, biggest brands are going to succeed in an easier way in the e-commerce space. And we've all seen the migration as in many states, national accounts are selling more share of our industry. Their shelf space is a lot smaller than an entire liquor store. So there's not going to be as distribution for every smaller brand. Well, if you look, some people say that the e-commerce space is an endless aisle, but it's also a really small aisle. So having the biggest brands that are going to pop to the top of those searches, that, in our opinion right now, is the best way to be penetrating this emerging space.
Ken, what's your perspective from a distributor? As we've started working with Drizzly through WSWA, but we are also often the front line to those brick and mortar stores.
So one of the things that we do with Drizzly and some of these other partners that do the online ordering and then delivery service to the consumer is we work with them and we know what they'll be promoting for that period of time. So we work with them to make sure that their inventory levels are right where they need the inventory levels to be based off history that they provide to us and what we have to move sales forward. But we know that we have a duty to bridge the gap with our suppliers and our customers, as well as elevating digital comprehension to the entire industry. So we work very closely with our suppliers on these initiatives with them.
Thank you. And Lily?
Yes, I think it's the mix of, getting the basics right in terms of product information on the digital shelf, no matter if it's coming from a third-party provider such as Drizzly or Minibar, or if it's coming from a national account, or if it's coming from a very local mom and pop shop that they're starting to build their own e-commerce expertise themselves. I think brands needs to be very, very aware that having the right product information on those product pages is even more important than having it on the shelf at the actual physical store. So e-commerce allows us to include those, product accolades, any specific tasting notes, or any specific even content images, videos. Video has become very important these days as well. Short videos on those product pages online. And then next to that, distribution, of course. We work very closely with our distributors as well, making sure they, like Ken mentioned, they are aware of the upcoming marketing campaigns that we as suppliers are partnering with vendors such as Drizzly to increase awareness and, of course, product purchase from the consumer standpoint. And in terms of marketing, some of the things that we've seen work really well for us specific to our brands is the gifting component. So in the past, we used to think about champagnes as an example or holiday, right? Champagne is a product that people are usually sending us a gift, no matter the occasion. So we're investing a lot of efforts in terms of marketing and actually talking about gifting as a year-round concept versus just a seasonal concept. For instance, a gift for even during COVID, right? A gift for missed opportunities that you couldn't be able to be with your family, a graduation gift, a present for a new home, new job, new baby. There's a million gifting occasions that we've seen our brands really resonate really well with our consumers in that scenario. And that's just one example of some of the campaigns that we've invested with these third-party providers.
Great. Look, we all know these are going to keep growing. So hopefully these tips are useful to start. And, you know, as everything we've said, it's all evolving because it's all so new. Ken, I now have a question directly for you. And that I'm sure a lot of the audience here is dying to hear, is what role does the distribution partner play in continuing the digital marketing effort amongst the tiers?
You know, working with our customers, and we've said this several times throughout this, is messaging. Consistent messaging and the same messaging on multiple platforms is a key in this initiative. The consumer wants to know what the messaging is, and we can't confuse the consumer. We need to have the same messaging throughout. And like I say, you know, bridging the gap and working very closely with our customers and suppliers with this.
So now I'll turn to the suppliers to talk about, you know, how they measure success. So this is another multi-part question. Are there KPIs that you use, say with digital advertising as your basis? And if so, what kind of digital ads do you use? And really the follow-up for that, if it's not too much, how do you reconcile the limited qualitative data with the limited quantitative data to actually draw the best conclusion as to what works? Because as we know, we're still new. Lily?
Yes, of course. So I think for digital, as we were discussing at the beginning of the webinar, is there's a lot of different digital channels, right? How do we get different metrics and assign different KPIs to different type of campaigns? So let's say when we're trying to get more awareness, for us, it's really important to measure the impressions of a campaign. How many people are actually seeing a specific ad and how many people are actually clicking and engaging with the ad. That will give us a really good measure, an idea if this campaign has worked or not based on a specific benchmark from the past. And then in terms of conversions, right? Given that we as suppliers don't sell directly to the consumer, what we can do is we being able to utilize some of the third-party provider data and get some insights that way, and to see how consumer trends and consumer behavior has changed across different type of products. But also we try to listen to our customers all the time. So we're constantly talking to our on-premise operators, off-premise operators, and learning from them what are the type of products, cocktails, wine, champagnes that people are ordering, right? Either from their online experience or also even asking about, so we can learn a little bit more of how that consumer has been changing throughout the months. And then in terms of data, qualitative data, we do twofold. So we do qualitative data in regards to industry overall, not only our Moët Hennessy brands, but also we try to look for the innovation aspect into other industries. So what is the some of the other industries that are more advanced in e-commerce? So what is the beauty industry doing? What is the next digital tool that we can test and learn in our industry and give it a specific twist? And maybe that will work for social media. Maybe that will work for paid search. That will work for email marketing. So we're constantly looking out for different things in the marketplace and trying and testing and learning along the way.
Yeah, you're definitely lucky having direct access to these other industries that are so much ahead of ours, you know, within your conglomerate. So the resources are extensive for you. Kate, how do you, without that external stuff, obviously we can all buy it and turn to it. How do you reconcile the data differences?
Well, just a couple things to add on from what Lily was saying. Even within the awareness versus engagement piece, there's different metrics that we would even use in that, which from a social buying perspective or just a digital media in general, those are two very different things that you would buy your media differently, change your messaging specifically to achieve one of those things versus the other. So it can be so nuanced, and then the associated KPIs are going to be very nuanced depending on what your objective in the placement is. And, you know, more specifically, meaning, are you a brand that is trying to just like broadcast like a shotgun approach, getting broad awareness and or even just really targeted awareness of a new product in a very limited audience? It's still about awareness, and you're going to buy that media and communicate that ad in a different way than if your outcome is to really get someone to engage and click and go to your website or go to a Drizzly or enter a contest, enter a text to win, watch a video, go to an event. These are all different kind of things. So you're going to buy your media and have different headlines, different images, all depending on what you're wanting to do. So it all works very hand in hand. Now, all that being said, the precision of how you can have KPIs for any very specific thing you want to do. At the end of the day, though, deciding where you want to go and how you want to spend your marketing and your media dollars is got to combine art and science. You are never going to be able to say 100%, this is what the data says, and therefore that's what we're doing. We too, of course, look to what other brands are doing, and we share within our portfolio as well. And it comes back to that consumer and working with our partners, whether it be the distributor or retailers and the consumer and agency partners. And we all put all of our best thinking in and come in a very integrated sort of way to what is the learning and where do we want to keep heading. And as you keep saying, Sarah, it all keeps evolving. Every day there's a new tool, a new way to measure something, a new way to engage. So it keeps us all busy.
One follow-up for that, it should be more straightforward. What is the percentage, say, that I'm sure people want to know? What's a percentage of your marketing budgets or time goes to social media specifically?
Well, for us, and I'm sure it is true with the vast portfolio at Moet Hennessy, it all depends on the brand. A brand like Hypnotic that is very targeted, very specific in our objectives in our marketing, it is almost all social media. A brand like Evan Williams, where it's a different male-oriented consumer, we have a lot of in real life activity that we want to leverage in different ways. It's going to be a much smaller percentage, as small as maybe 30%, so it just really depends again on who your consumer is and what you're trying to achieve with that brand.
Lily, do you have any different?
Yes, the same. And also it goes from all the different channels as well. Each brand has their own unique strategy, even though we're part of the same group. Each brand functions as its own little company with their own brand voice, their own consumers. Insights are different as well. One thing I will say in regards to social media, there are many ways to increase that awareness, which I'm sure that's one of the main questions that we'll have today. But just to get a little bit ahead of that, we've seen the traditional organic post, right? You create your Instagram account, your Facebook account, your YouTube account, you start posting. How do you start attracting, prospecting consumers? One thing that social media helps us a lot, and also helps a lot of the smaller brands, is being very, very targeted with this very specific budget in trying to purchase and buying sponsored ads with a segmented consumer, adding specific zip codes, adding specific keywords. You can start, of course, always adding the age verification for your sponsor ads. That helps as well. And once you start building that locally, you'll start gaining more followers and consumers engaged on your social media accounts that way. And then another thing that we've seen works really well, of course, and it's big, influencer marketing. Influencer marketing, it's what is the right influencer, right? How do we partner with specific influencer? How do we make sure that our voice is consistent? So in the past, influencers were just content creators, one-off content creators that would do it as a hobby, but now it's a whole strategy in social media marketing. Now we have agencies that are actually managing these influencers' activations and plans and evaluating with different brands. Is this influencer resonating with your type of consumer, right? So this is a whole other industry in terms of social media and how do we utilize the best message to communicate with the consumer. So I'm making sure that if you are partnering with an influencer that feels authentic, that I think always helps with, build and test with something local, really small, start seeing the results from that and then grow from there.
Thank you. Lastly, when you followed your digital strategy through and you found success, how do you sustain the energy and keep the momentum going so that you stay relevant? I'm going to start with Ken on this one, as Kate and Lily are always focused on their brands. Ken has to launch one and then move on and balance multiple portfolios at once. how do you keep all eyes on the product that you've just launched to success?
So the product that we launched for success is our brand is RNDC. And then our e-commerce platform is eRNDC. And how do we monitor that for success? Well, we've been in the industry for over 100 years as a distributor. And our story and our experience is we understand that our customers and our associates give us great positive feedback on eRNDC. Currently, we have over 1 million views monthly on eRNDC, and we've gotten some great feedback. It's not only an online ordering tool, it's about the experience with the customer. How could we enhance the experience of the customer to drive more sales with our customers? We also work very closely with our customers to help them grow their business. I've been in the industry for over 26 years, and I'm still out in front of the customers, talking with the customers on a regular basis, working with them and our teams on helping them grow their business. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kate? And you were integral in the growth of Deep Eddy, as you've referred before, right? And as a relatively newer brand. How do you kept that going and growing?
Well, the number one way to keep the brands growing is to continue to mine those consumer insights and make sure that your brand, what your brand is about, your product offering is still relevant and delivering on those needs of the consumer. So it really has to start with the product. Do you still have the right flavor mix? Do you have the right packaging? Do you have the right sizes? So are you still delivering on those consumer needs? Are you available in all the places and formats that your consumer wants it? And then once you've identified that, it's from a messaging perspective, how do consumer insights change? And we saw a lot of that during COVID, as people started interacting with our category in very different ways, whether it be at home, much more so than out at bars and events. We had to find a way to make sure our messaging was still relevant, and changing all of our marketing to do that. As I mentioned before, talking about how we took our on-premise focus program of Elijah Craig Old Fashioned Week and created an entire week of digital content. So it's those sorts of things, and digital then becomes one element in way that we can communicate directly with that consumer.
Lily, how do you sustain both heritage brands? We know that Hennessy has no problem these days, as none of us have any of it. So how do you sustain a heritage brand such as the champagnes with your newer innovation, as you refer to some of the scotches or tequila like Vulcan?
Yes, so I think we as marketers and we in the industry are, and being part also of a sales organization, right? We're always trying to more sales and more of this and more. I think we always need to go back to the core and what is the product. Like Kate mentioned, it's so important to make sure the actual product, it's good, it's trusted by your consumers, and also identify the things that make that product unique. I think that's what it's going to make you stand out above the rest, right? And we have so many consumers available to, understand. Preferences are so different. It depends on different type of markets. But I think going back to your product, what makes that product unique? Why is your product special? Why do you think your consumer will be delighted to either buy that product or send it to someone or gift it to someone as well? And continue the conversation that way. I think from brand marketing, either digital or traditional, you always have to stand from that specific product uniqueness and continue your campaigns, even if it's on trend. Let's say maybe the trend for now is, creating a campaign around holiday, right? But what is going to stand out your specific product during the holiday season? That's what's going to drive the results, I believe.
Thank you. And Ken, anything else to add?
It's a little different as the distributor on communicating to the consumer. So we try to work with our customers and our suppliers on the consistent messaging and giving that information to the retailers or the on-premise avenue to help with this initiative. So it's a little bit different perspective on our.
Of course. Now we're going to open it up to questions from you in the audience that have come into the chat. First up is, how do you work with your on-premise partners to follow through on your digital campaigns and activations? Lily?
Thank you. One thing that is really important for us is making sure the content is accessible to all of our customers. We do have our trade portal that hosts all of our campaigns, upcoming campaigns for the year, making sure that all of the tools, not only for the off-premise, but also for the on-premise, are loaded on that specific trade portal by brand, by specific mark, and any new product. We work really close with our distributors to make sure those communications and messaging are consistent throughout, providing not only the right on-premise tools to the accounts, but also the messaging, right? How can they utilize these content tools and promote the brands on their own social media channels? We've seen the on-premise being very big on social media for awareness, either coming from restaurants, bars, casual dining, nightlife, but also from chefs. All these celebrity chefs are also having a specific relation, a very special relationship with our brands as well. So I think social media plays a very important role in the on-premise, not only to capture consumers, but also for that loyalty aspect.
Kate?
Yeah, similar to what Lily was saying, getting access to assets, whether it be for on-premise or social campaigns, or even now we're seeing our e-commerce assets. So ads that a local retailer can put into their e-commerce sites to help promote certain products over the other. Those are great tools. One thing, for some of the smaller folks who might be in the audience listening in, is one, watch out though in your social media efforts in working directly with on-premise accounts, is making sure anything that you're doing does not conflict with any tied house legalities. And therefore, if you've got something like an Elijah Craig Old Fashioned Week, you can't just partner with one amazing account in said city and all of a sudden be driving all your traffic from a social media perspective, giving media dollars, sending people to that account. So if you're going to do an effort like that, you have to make sure that you've got a wide number of accounts that are all participating, cooperating in such a program.
And Ken, as a distributor, with your reps and managers in those on-premise on a more regular basis, how do you contribute to this?
So what we do is we take the content that our suppliers produce, and we also produce our own content with our suppliers. And we've got a platform called Go Out 365 that it is a kind of like an influencer to the consumer on messaging, the same messaging on market activity or what's going on in particular cities. So we do this from one city to another throughout our network.
Great, thank you. And I will say that both Heaven Hill and Moet have fantastic trade portals if you guys have access to them. The next question from the audience is, how do you combine email marketing with social media? And how can you coordinate amongst all the tiers to make it the most impactful it can be? Start with Ken again.
So we have a collection of our customers' email addresses, and we promote ad campaigns or specials of the month out to our customers. It's not to the consumer, it's to our customers. And we talk about different activities, like I said, in the marketplace. So it's almost like a newsletter. Email is something that is not as successful as it used to be. That's why we pushed down this path of Go Out 365, trying to get that information to the consumers. But we don't give up. We definitely have campaigns, email campaigns out to our customers on different activities and promotions in the marketplace.
Kate?
Yeah, while it seems as though email marketing may have lost some of its appeal, we do see that there are many consumers who still are very engaging with their emails and opening emails. And so depending on the brand and what the opportunity is and what we're trying to do, we still find that email marketing works for sure. And like with everything, we're always trying to get 1 + 1 = 3. So we're wanting to tie it into whatever social activity or on-premise activity or retail promotion is going on at the same time. So they all work together.
And Lily?
We've seen both working really well together. I think it's important to notice before social media was big, especially before Instagram even existed, email was the tool to actually communicate with consumers in a faster way, right? So now, even when you want to learn something about either a specific restaurant or a new brand, we always tend to go to their social media channel to see what's the latest post. What is the most recent post? Do they post an Insta story, right? That's just the nature and how consumers behaving these days. I think where email helps is making sure that messaging that you do have on social media is the same. And also for email, we can definitely utilize email for more curated, exclusive type of messaging versus social media that is more being used for mass communication. So I think they work really well together. You can utilize both channels with different tactics in regards to digital marketing and of course, making sure your brand messaging is consistent on both.
There's two follow-up questions related to social media. First, or kind of, you all referenced Instagram, before Facebook. What role does traditional POS still play in marketing, and how does it tie into the digital efforts? Ken?
So current POS, many of them have QR codes on there that tell the story of the brand. So they're very successful at retail or even on-premise level. Consumers want to learn more. They want to see more and they want easy access. And we know they all have their phone in their hand. So QR codes is a great way to distribute the message to the consumer. So you just have to adapt and change POS on how it's back to the consumer and the usage.
Lily?
I think this is a very exciting time on how we've been testing and learning from all different type of POS displays and elements, right? Like Ken mentioned, QR code is one. Also, letting the consumer know what is the official handle of the brand on social. If the brand has a sign up for newsletter, how do you link that physical printout piece into the digital space? And another thing we've seen also is the virtual events. They were big during the beginning of COVID. They are not going away. I think with the way people are learning these days, they want to be, maybe they don't have time to learn a little bit now, but they want to learn more. So every piece of POS, we're trying to merge the educational piece about the brands on top of the marketing piece, right? So that message stays on the physical POS display and also on the online experience with the same content, a very similar type of copy. And another thing that we've seen works really well is the digital coupons or rebates, right? So before your traditional physical coupons, it's, you lose it in the mail, so and so. So now the digital rebate coupons we've seen work very, very well with our consumers. And also it brings them to the store to even do additional shopping at the store and find new brands. And then third, I think one thing that we saw also grew a lot during the beginning of COVID and it's still staying, it's curbside pickup, right? The curbside pickup starting online, you go into the store. So making sure you have either a separate section in the store, either with a physical POS or just like signage that, can help that consumer, like this is where your curbside pickup is, but also we have these, gifting options or new brands or new products into the store, making sure that they're not only shopping online, but they're shopping everywhere with different type of channels.
Speaking of channels, I believe we've already addressed this, but one question says, how do you use TikTok and other social media platforms without compromising responsibility? What is the most effective way to verify influencers? And I think, and then there's a follow-up to that maybe we can answer together, that is probably really on the top of mind of a lot of our craft producers in the audience is, how are brands who don't have the budgets of Moet Hennessy and Heaven Hill supposed to compete and get into the marketplace, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, or advertising? Kate?
Sure. Before I answer this question, I just wanted to comment one last thing on the POS piece. We've been talking a lot about digital marketing and to some extent e-commerce, but I just want to hone in for all the folks with entrepreneurial brands. Consumers do not want to just hibernate in their house all the time. They and buy every single thing they can from their phone. But to get them to go into a store or into a bar or an event or whatever, it has to be an experience. It has to be fun, right? So as Lily said, the part of that evolution is us working with our distributor partners and working with retailers to figure out how as we as suppliers can bring that fun experience vis-a-vis point of sale into the retail space, into the on-premise account. And as I think Ken and Lily both said, whether it be education or just really aisle violating, amazing display type things, or having, a person is a kind of point of sale too, doing tastings. So all of those things I think are as critically important than ever before, maybe even more so because the importance of giving someone an experience to close the sale, because the vast majority of sales are still happening in the retail store, not online. So we cannot think we can walk away from it. So anyways, going back to the TikTok question, as I was describing before, some of the very easy to do scrappy type things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. The program I was talking about on where we saw an influencing trend going on TikTok, it didn't involve us sending them product. It involved us verifying on Instagram, which was not very hard or complicated or expensive. This can be done in-house easy. We sent them Deep Eddy lemon, or not deep, or just Deep Eddy branded piñatas. We are not talking about sending Hartman suitcases, right? We're showing, something so simple, surprise and delight kind of thing that doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And so then what happens is those influencers are so excited because it's interesting and different, they start posting about it themselves. And then that becomes like a viral sort of thing in and of itself. So that's a really inexpensive thing to do. And then the other thing is, when you're looking at messaging and wanting to test it, A/B testing of different ads, it doesn't cost a lot of money to qualify which messaging is going to work better for you. You can do that with just a little bit of money behind your post. So it doesn't have to take a ton of budget for sure.
Lily?
So I think we should never forget that, especially in our industry, you need to taste the product. That's how you actually can tell the story. This is a great product, I liked it. But I think experiences is what's going to drive you most of the time to even, recommend that product to someone else. So I think there has to be a very important strategy for the smaller brands, even if it's not going to a lot of on-premise accounts or like creating events for consumers, because that can be costly, but just start small, right? A tasting in a specific list of retailers, right? Why is this product special? Have someone there act as your brand ambassador. On premise, start with happy hours, maybe some specials on the menu. Tell the story why this brand is different, why is it new, specific cocktail placement. And of course, this helps you to capture new consumers into that database for your email, and then continue communicating and starting conversations with your consumers that way. And then on the other side of the story, I think it's not one size fits all, right? If you do want to start messaging and start marketing your brand, I think social media marketing is a good start because you can start small. You can assign very small budget for a very limited list of zip codes, a specific list of keywords for a specific campaign, and you can get metrics from that. Is it really resonating with the type of consumer I believe my brand communicates with? Maybe I can change some keywords to try a different campaign and analyze that way. And then you can start learning as you go on social media marketing with some sponsor ads on Instagram, Facebook, and even on YouTube. So I will start there, the liquid to lips, right? You need to taste the product, believe in your product, and then continue the conversation online.
Thank you, Lily. And instead of asking Ken to repeat, just shift it a little for our last question. That's a little more distributor directed in the same area. What is the most successful tool or approach you've seen for distributors in the field to use to motivate retailers on displaying and carrying adequate quantities of brands that have maybe found more of their life on e-commerce or digitally?
So we work with the retailers on what's hot in the area. We know what brands are selling around them. What are the consumers drinking at the local restaurants around them? What are they buying at the independent package stores around them? What are they buying at the grocery stores around them? And we try to market those products to the customer to promote to the consumers that are shopping in that general area. We also have information that we build in-house that we know where the customers are shopping. We know where they're eating dinner at. We know what they're purchasing. We share that information with our customers and our suppliers. And that way we can market those same products back to the consumer because we know where they're dining at.
Great. Before we close it out, any last comments on digital marketing from any of you?
Always fun to learn from other folks on the panel. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it's been very informative for all of you. I can't wait to watch it back and actually, take in what you're saying. So we'll make the recording of this webinar available to everyone who is registered. So please be on the lookout for that follow-up email and share the webinar and the information around your organizations. And of course, on your social media. However, if you are going to engage on social media, please engage the WSWA Access program by using the hashtag WSWA Access. At this point, I want to thank everyone in the audience for attending, especially the Access Advisory Board members. This is a new board and it's very exciting for us to be able to come together, help everyone, and produce this content. And I especially want to thank our gold level sponsor, 365 Wine Trade. One last reminder to join us for the Brown Battle Tournament of Champions on Tuesday, September 14th. Finally, I want to thank our incredible panel today. Kate, Lily, and Ken. The US marketplace for alcohol is a global standard because of professionals like you. Thank you so much for everything that you do to keep it interesting, exciting, and for keeping us safe. Thank you to everyone again, and please be well.